Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see. Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4.
Not there.
My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community director here for Diablo. I'm joined by our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
I'm Antonio Watson, associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
And I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
And I know you guys actually just saw an early look at Season 2, Season of Blood, with that video before the actual live stream kicked off. I do want to start off, before we kick off into this conversation, there is going to be an emergency alert if you live in the US
loud for you
at
guys?
11:20 on every single mobile device. So you may actually see us look at our phones or our watches, or you might hear it at home if you live in the US. So if you do hear a weird noise or something, we've tried throwing everyone's phones out of the room, but it still might happen. So it's a good time check, though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to...
11:20 Pacific time.
Yes, Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California, and so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time zone, that is in 17 minutes, everyone. But I did want to give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a test. If you live in the US. If you live in the US, that is. But we do have a lot to talk about here. We do want to talk about Season 2. Of course, with Season of Blood, and go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the story, some of the new elements that are coming within this season, since we're now coming really close to Season of Blood, which is coming out on October 17th. And of course, Season of the Malignant will also be ending on October 17th, so it'll be a season transition for players between both seasons. And then we have a bunch of gameplay updates and quality of life updates to actually go through a ton. Like this, we expect this actual developer update live stream to go for about 2 hours, because we do need to go through a ton of items with everyone. And then we have some news and announcements to make regarding Diablo 4 towards the end. And of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat. And then I know we actually have some questions from the forums, because we had started a forum thread earlier this week, or late last week, regarding the developer update live stream. So I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2.
Yeah.
So want to jump straight into it?
Let's dive in. So I know that we just watched the video together where we talked about the Season of Blood, but in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a new villain who's begun to surface throughout Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to gather all of these vampiric cultists and other followers to his banner in effort to kind of overtake Sanctuary and achieve his own aims across the world. Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new character named Eris, who I think we have. So you're going to meet Eris during the course of the season.
Cover all of this in the
Eris
video?
is a vampire hunter who's been trying to thwart
we just
Lord
talk
Zir
about
for
this?
the past the past few weeks and months. Trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely. She's not having great luck sort of investigating the cults. She needs more help. The player is going to kind of enter the picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season, mild spoiler here, but the player is going to contract vampirism. But due to the strange nature of the interaction with the Lilith's blood in the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence, and instead gain all of those same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures, which can be really, really cool. But Eris is going to be fairly nervous about this, as she's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies and such. But this represents this interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season. So as you're going through these things, you'll be kind of going across all of the world. And I know, Antonio, we talked about we had talked before about how there are a number of dungeons we added with the season, right. And you kind of go into some of those part of the quest line.
Yeah, so we have new dungeons that are part of the quest line. You can explore crypts. There's a really cool dungeon at the end when you are going to confront Zir for the final battle. And in addition to that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Yeah. So I've seen, I think we're seeing some of the dungeon stuff here.
Yep.
So the new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, like when you're going to sort of get a chance to, once you've tracked down Lord Zir with Eris and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair, those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to actually show on stream just
no
now.
Spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers for all that stuff just yet, but definitely a lot of things to look forward to. So the player's going to meet other characters as well as they're progressing through the season. There are other allies they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about Lord Zir's plans overall, what his real intentions are for Sanctuary as all of this is going on. So that's kind of like the high level
dungeon is
of what's
already a
happening in the world.
nightmare dungeon.
Basically, Lord Zir and his army of vampiric cultists are trying to take everything over, and that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season. But I think the first thing I really want to talk about, or the next thing I want to talk about, are the mechanics, like what you're going to be doing during the season to kind of gain power and such. So we talk about the fantasy of the season is that the player is basically becoming part vampire during the course of the season of Blood. And part of that comes down to making sure that we have cool vampiric powers for players to collect and use. So what we see here is our vampiric power user interface. It's the way players are going to be able to collect a lot of powers as they're progressing through the season, and then slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22 vampiric powers as they play. And these are designed such that they are, unlike in Season 1 where with Wellington Hearts, we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric powers that players collect in Season 2 are all class-agnostic in nature, so that there's just more combinations and things for players to select from and play with as they're thinking about their build. And so we have a few of these shown up right here. They come in a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a pact cost. Well, I will talk about a little bit more in just a moment. But you see these pact costs listed at the bottom. Players need to acquire a certain armor pieces that have these packs associated with them in order to fuel these. Again, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves real fast. Yeah, so here's one. So players can have a vampiric power they get as they're progressing through the season, where their evade allows them to turn to like a cloud of bats, and it also makes them unstoppable for a few seconds after they use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them while that effect is active on those creatures, you get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time, up to 8 of them at a time. And then when you choose to use a defensive ability on your character, you unleash all of these souls. As you can see here, these missiles, like these spirit missiles that fly out and hit lots of different creatures as you're playing through. So it kind of gives you this opportunity as you're going through packs and dungeons or elsewhere to kind of stack these up and use them to quickly burn down groups or elites that you might have to come across as you're playing. There's other cool things you'll get, like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can we have this where bats will come down and attack your enemies. And then many other powers. We talked about there was an overpower power we showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills. Here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, you'll be able to drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection. It also enhances all the damage that you deal while you're nearby. So this is going to be able to fire when you're using any kind of channeling skill and enhance those channeling skills. It just gives you a bit more positional gameplay to be thinking about when you're playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra damage from a channeling build for a class.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool about the that I like about the Vampiric Curse is that there are a few different ways, a few different things that can trigger it, and a few different ways to key off it. And so a lot of these vampiric powers have interactions with that curse. It kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think. So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs I talked about before. So if you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number of packs associated with them. So you see here on the items themselves, they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different types to fuel all the vampiric powers they can collect. Because ultimately, you want to gather all your vampiric powers, you want to level them all up to level 3 to make them as strong as you can get them, and then you want to make sure that you can fuel all of those vampiric powers so you can have all 5 slotted that you really care about. And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right kinds of armor pieces available. You know, the packs are only going to appear in armor. They don't appear on jewelry or on weapons, just on armor pieces. But, and I should say, every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood will always have packs associated with them as well. So you're not looking for items that are going to have. It's not rare in that way. And as the player progresses through the season, they're going to also gain these new items they're able to collect from completing various content types. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. These allow players to basically remove packs from items. They allow them to eject new packs into items up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then sacred have 4, and then on to 5 as you go into ancestral. So as you're progressing through, you can get more of these packs, and you have a lot more control over your ultimate pack loadout on your items as you collect more and more of these consumables that you can use to kind of modify and update your items. So we're really excited about this. Great ways to get these are going and completing other, like I mentioned, the Blood Harvest in the video. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But killing Blood Seekers is a way to get these in a really good way. So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these. So that is that's kind of like the very high level. We'll talk more about the other things you'll be doing to gain those vampiric powers. We get to some of the other sections of when we're talking about Season 2.
This is the first
There's also
time
a lot of new
I'm
new
hearing
enemies and things
about how all
as
this
part of Season
works
2 as
and
well.
So as part of Season 2, we actually
sure
added a bunch
how
of
fun
new
this is
monsters.
gonna be.
Lord Zier has a ton of different minions that will be all throughout the continent. First, we have here our Shadow Vampires. These guys are not your typical flavor of vampires. They have a bunch of really cool new attacks. You'll see them all over the overworld. You'll see them in a variety of dungeons. Paired with these guys, we also have our Blood Skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks that allow you to have new counterplay and techniques in order to defeat them and get around them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have a little more area denial baked in their kits, right? As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah, you definitely want to watch where you step, when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah, and the vampires have these cool things where they occasionally drop these giant heart-like lumps on the ground, and sometimes they'll be able to trigger shields off of these things. So you kind of change your target priority as you're going through spaces where you have to fight shadow vampires frequently to make sure that you're knocking these things out to prevent those shields from being applied. So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zier. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
Yes. He is the mastermind. You will be facing off with him throughout the season and during the end of the season. He is our big bad evil guy, and coming along with him are his lieutenants, the Bloodseekers.
Oh yeah, the Bloodseekers. So Bloodseekers are really cool. So Bloodseekers are a new idea in Season 2, and the concept here is that as the player has been is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zier after they contract vampirism under his in his forces. There are other heroes who've gone out there that don't have that same level of protection. Who've gone out there trying to stop Lord Zier, trying to stop the vampiric advances. And they have fallen victim to the blood cults and to Lord Zier's forces that way. And for those characters, now you've got vampiric sorceresses, you've got vampiric barbarians, you've got these blood seekers out there looking to kill you, the player. So as you're progressing through, you'll be dealing with enemy rogues, you'll be dealing with enemy druids and necromancers as you're playing, and dealing with their specific spells and kits that we've created for the season for players to interact with. And honestly, finding Bloodseekers is great because these guys are just blood bags. They drop. They have a really, really good chance to drop potent blood. And potent blood is going to be the currency that you're going to be collecting through the season. They'll be able to use to basically upgrade powers that you already have, your vampiric powers, and unlock new ones that are available through the vampiric power UI. So really, whenever you find Bloodseekers, you want to take them out because they are, first, they're pretty fun to fight. They're a little challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your vampiric powers. And they can jump you too, right? So we make sure Bloodseekers are you'll find them in the world, particularly like in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute, but there are lots of chances to get them to fight them in Blood Harvest. But you can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons, so don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
Yeah. So you just, as you're passing through a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind, they'll be all trying to slow you down, right, and causing problems. Yeah, very, very fun. So yeah, a lot of new enemy types as part of the new season. So then I guess next thing is, finally it's time to talk about Blood Harvest.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I mentioned before that Lord Zir is taking over Sanctuary, and Blood Harvest is really the way that we're representing that. Starting right at level 1, you'll find that Lord Zir's minions have taken over broad swaths of the 5 zones in Sanctuary. And it's going to be filled with like his minions out there trying to like drain the blood from a variety of different people. There's that
emergency alert.
There's that emergency alert that we talked about.
There we go.
Right.
Now everyone gets to experience this together. And my phone as well.
So is this just like a second Helltide?
So while these events are active,
it corrupts the
these
zone, it
activities are
rotates,
active,
you kill
you'll find
monsters, the
Lord Zir's
rewards.
armies,
Is this
marching
the second
across Sanctuary,
Helltide?
taking people hostage, taking them prisoner, draining them of blood, and just causing general havoc in these areas where there's like new propping and there's new creatures. There's lots of things to do as you're kind of going through this.
So what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
Sure. That's a great question, Antonio. So obviously there's some similarities to the way that things are working in Helltide. The difference here is that first of all, it's available right away at level 1, as you're progressing. But also, while these events are active, there's always a Blood Harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time. Like when a Blood Harvest ends in one location somewhere in Sanctuary, a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's forces now move to a new location. And one of the cool things about Blood Harvest that's a little bit different than things like Helltide is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere. And that is, you're going to be able to earn Bloodlures, which Bloodlures that you'll be able to use to basically like bait Bloodseekers to come to you to be able to fight packs of them as time goes on. And you're also going to be earning these Vampiric keys you can use to open like prisoners like cuffs, to be able to open Vampiric caches and other things out in the overworld. And one of the cool things about this is that these materials that you're collecting, these currencies that you need to kind of like do some of these activities, these don't disappear at the end of a Blood Harvest. So as you collect them, they stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using Bloodlures to summon a few of the Bloodseekers in combat. So yeah, and then whirlwinding accordingly. But so that's a couple differences. And
that
the
might
other
actually
is there's
impact
actually another new feature that we're
leveling
adding
meta,
in Season
1 to
2,
50,
which we're calling right here, it's called Hunter's Acclaim. And as you do things in the Blood Harvest area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest-themed whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the Vampiric Powers that you want to unlock for your character are available through this system. A few of them, and then there's lots of like potent blood you can get from the system, and then also gear as well as you're progressing through. So there's a bunch of different stuff in here for players to do. It's we're really excited to see how they level up in this experience.
And the Blood Harvest occurs in addition to Helltide, right? Once you progress up into the higher world tiers, you'll still be seeing Helltides.
That's absolutely right. You'll still see Helltides as well, but you'll also see higher level Blood Harvest as you get into like world tiers 3 and 4.
Awesome. So we got a lot of information here about Season 2, but Season 2 also has some other components to it that actually are beyond even just like seasonal stuff. Like, and I know people may have seen in the video the discussion that we quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was about the new bosses that are being added in. Can you guys kind of walk through like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that first and foremost, this is content we're adding to the Eternal Realm as well as the Seasonal Realm from this point forward. Yes. We're continuing to add more activities like this as time goes on. But there's actually, I think I have a handy dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking about here. So what you see here is the way that we kind of look at the content progression of Diablo 4, the way the players are playing through the experience, the sorts of activities they engage with as they play at
So
various
that's like in
stages.
season 1, right?
Why
In
doesn't it
pre-season
1 to
season
50
one.
say
So, yeah, you can think of it
dopamine
that way.
tunnels?
So our 1 to 50 experience, obviously you're leveling up initially. Maybe you're going through the campaign for the first time. You're progressing through. Eventually you get out of World Tiers 1, 2 and get into World Tier 3 after you finish the capstone. Here you get to do, you have higher level whispers to do. You get exposed to Nightmare Dungeons for the first time. You get exposed to Helltide for the first time. World Boss get a little bit tougher. Legion events get a little bit tougher. We're making some changes there as well. And then eventually you get into World Tier 4. Now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue to move on.
The world
through
bosses
Nightmare
get
Dungeons,
tougher.
And you continue on through Helltide
What?
until eventually you go and you confront Echo of Lilith, potentially, if that's one of your goals for yourself, and you try to take her out. So that's kind of like what we had in place right at launch. Not even thinking about season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, a lot of Helltide, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game, that players are looking for more milestones, they're looking for more goals, they're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful. So there's some big changes we're making as part of the Season of Blood, and we can show that here. So now when the player gets into World Tier 3, there's 2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss for them to go and engage with. The first is Echo of Varshan, our good boy Varshan that everybody loves, is going to be back
King of Maggots
in
is the
season 2. The players be able to hunt down in order to kill, to get various craft materials they can use to summon other bosses later, but also specifically to get uniques that only drop from Varshan. So every one of the bosses that we add as part of the Season of Blood is going to have their own distinct loot list associated with them, with unique items, and there are some cosmetic rewards as well that we'll be able to talk about in a little bit. So that's a reason why you're going to want to go hunt each of these down. Now on this board here, you can see that I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from. So if you want to go hunt Varshan, you need to go complete Whispers. There's chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing Whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur. And you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing Whisper bounty turn-ins. So when you go and you get your cash reward at the end of a Whisper run, there's a chance for you to have one of the pieces that you need to summon Varshan, reconstitute him. Because in the Season of Blood, there are new layers that have been added around the world. And the lair for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow, malignant hollow beneath the Tree of Whispers. So right there's an entrance down in where you're able to fight some awesome malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures certainly down there. And at the end of that small dungeon, you're able to go and basically throw these materials into this new brazier that we've added to be able to summon Varshan back from the dead to fight him for the special loot that he has. Now, one of the new creatures that we're adding is this the Galvanic Saint, which we'll show off some of the new art.
This is better info than the season info, in my opinion.
Like very lightning themed boss that players will be able to go and engage with.
A lot
as
more
they complete
important than the
Helltide
vampire
content.
stuff.
They will learn Infernal Steel from opening various caches and use this as a way, as part of a new layer, to go and summon the Galvanic Saint and deal with his lightning themed attacks. And that's actually something that might be worth pointing out. While we're not talking about the elemental resistance changes until next week when Adam comes back with Charles and they talk about all the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season. It's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks. So you should be looking for like lightning resist explicitly if you're trying to farm Grigwire, and you'll be looking for cold resist to find from the Beast of Ice later. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So okay, so that's World Tier 3. This is a way for you to get some of those build-defining uniques you might need to kind of progress to the Sacred Tier, give you those extra rewards as you go. So now we're talking about World Tier 4 for a second. So you've got into World Tier 4. Echo Varshan is now still available for you to fight in World Tier 4, where he drops ancestral versions of those same unique items. And the Galvanic Saint is also available for players to fight to get ancestral versions of those unique items. So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4, they drop summoning components that you need in order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100
Doesn't make
boss
sense
that we're
to
adding
me.
as part of the seasonal experience, who has a chance to drop unique items as well as a low chance to drop uber unique items.
So what does that mean, like, in terms, when you say uber uniques, a lot of people go like, oh, low chance, there's already a low chance. So what does that mean for a player for uber uniques now with this new system?
That's a great question. You will absolutely know people that have uber uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an uber unique item. They're still very rare relative to other item types. but it's not like it was in the past. Like you're going to see people in your clan that have uber uniques. You're going to know people that have uber uniques. You have a way to hunt for these.
It doesn't make sense
in this world.
if the Echoes
that's
of
a really big
Varshan
push
and
as part of
Grigor
new
drop the
seasonal program.
ancestral version,
Now,
and you
there
only
are
get the
two
sacred
other,
version
two
50
other
to
bosses
70.
that I didn't talk about too much.
You will
The
never
first
fight
is
them
the
in
Beast
World
in
Tier
Ice.
3.
So the Beast in
You just
Ice
skip it.
is a new boss that you can go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30.
Doesn't make any
So
sense.
Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons, 85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon. You'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to the Beast in Ice's lair. So that is the way to be able to summon forth the Beast in Ice and fight them in combat to get their special loot. And they've got some really potent items as well. And then lastly, for the new boss we're adding with the season, is we talked about Lord Zir already. While you will be able to confront like a story version of Lord Zir as you go through the quest line in World Tiers 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Zir that you'll fight in World Tier 4 once you're ready for that content. And you'll be able to access and summon forth Lord Zir this way as you kill world bosses in Season 4 and as you kill, in Season 2 rather, Season 4. As you kill world bosses, yeah, I know, I really am. As you kill world bosses in World Tier 4, and as you complete Legion events in World Tier 4, you'll be able to gather these materials forward and bring them to go and summon Lord Zir. So, a couple extra things to kind of call out here. Actually, why don't we show? I think we have video of these new bosses. Yeah, okay. You see Grigor summoning in for the first time. Very excited for players to go and do that fight. The Beast in Ice in his new lair. And of course, Duriel, maggots.
So gross.
Yeah, it's super gross. Very fun. So yeah, these three we still have Lord Zir. We don't want to show off the boss fight just yet, but you'll get a chance to go and obviously fight a version of him in the quest line and a much more difficult version of him later. But one other thing worth calling out as part of this, the materials that players are going to be collecting to use
and the
to
Beast
summon
in
forth
Ice.
these bosses. There's a couple advantages. First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together and use that as a way to more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these bosses that you're looking for. But you can also trade these materials between players as well. So if you've got half the things you might need to summon Varshan, but you don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components, spend the gold necessary to maybe exchange for those things, and then go more quickly summon the bosses that you need. And also, as you collect these materials, you realize you may have overfarmed the materials that you need to summon, and you got the items you're really looking for early enough. Now you have a chance to go and take those and maybe sell those off, to make a tidy profit for yourself, so you can have an easier time enchanting items and other things as you go.
Exactly. Make friends.
Yeah, make friends for sure. Yeah.
And you said this before, but all 5 of these bosses have unique loot tables.
Yes.
That have specific uniques on them that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2 as well that also can all appear on these bosses, you will be able to you will know the sorts of boss you're looking for in order to farm for those items. Right, so if you're looking for something, there's a boss.
I want the fire horse.
You know what you need to go target.
Where do I get the fire horse at?
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is just some of the kind of almost exclusive items that you can find off of
in the
some
shop
of
racks.
These bosses that within the 5 of them on their drop tables. But then, like Joe and Joe have mentioned, you can find unique items off of them. And Uber Duriel has the opportunity of dropping Uber uniques. And yes, you will find people and know people that and may find yourself an actual Uber uniques with this season and going forward, because again, this is in Eternal Realm and this is in every season going forward, and we'll be adding more to it.
That's right.
And I know a lot of people have been asking about unique items and hey, are there going to be any future changes for unique items? And I just want to note because we had been talking about the stream on October 10th, where we just have a lot to talk about today, so we're actually splitting up the streams. But on October 10th, we're talking more about class balance changes. We're also talking about unique item updates. In fact, nearly every unique item is getting some sort of update in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be talking more about that on the 10th. So these unique items are obviously going to be, big things to actually kind of hunt
Every
for
unique.
players when they are fighting these specific
And it has
bosses.
to be a buff,
There's a lot
'cause
of
uniques are
stuff to talk about
underpowered.
today. We'll have more to talk about on the 10th, and of course we're also going to be
Okay.
talking about resistances more on the 10th with Adam Jackson
Yep.
and some of the damage bucket changes. Like I know we have like crit, vulnerable, and overpower damage that's also getting kind of adjusted
Yeah.
and tuned, kind of what we mentioned in prior streams. So that will all be happening on the 10th. But we got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here.
Okay.
But we do want to kind of jump right
I'm
into them, so
listening.
we can kind of get through all of them for sure. And a lot of this, and I do want to like preface, a lot of this is based off of things we've heard within the community,
Yeah.
community feedback, and also just changes
We
that
knew
we
this was
most definitely
coming.
wanted to
It's
make
good
to the game
change.
to make
Not
a
gonna
better
make-
experience for
mean much to
players,
a lot of
especially
people,
as we were going
Scroll
through
of Escape.
preseason, season 1. So, Joe, do you want to
Yeah.
kick us off?
Yeah, and so we can see, I'm going to talk about Scroll of Escape here. I just wanted to mention, we were seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh, yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to, that you can get from farming.
That's
farming
correct. Yes, these are
overbosses.
exclusively dropped from
Yeah.
the various bosses that we're
Correct.
talking
In-game,
about
yeah.
adding in season 2.
So you can get Rapidash
Constantly
from
went
killing the bosses, not from
And
the
these,
shop.
when we say eternal and
Good.
seasonal, we mean that these are going to persist.
Yes.
Good.
Persist beyond season 2.
That's correct. Yeah, these bosses aren't going to go away at the end of the season. We want to add more things for players
Started
to do.
kind
as
of
they get into
bad
these
with
world
the
tiers,
season
more content
announcement.
tiers. There's more updates we want to make to
The boss
content types. We'll talk about
announcement,
some of those things
that
today.
was
Yeah.
that's
No, but there's a lot more
something.
planned. This is sort of like the first
I don't
step
get the
in, like,
World
creating
Tier
more
3
interesting
thing. I
activities
get
for players
casuals.
as they get into World Tier 4.
Give 'em
especially as
something
they
to
get level
do, but
100 especially.
Now
I'm
you have
sure
a
there's more
long
fun
list
things
of
for players to do
changes.
and engage
Okay.
Endgame.
in. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scrolls of
Okay.
Escape. It's been a little while coming, but Scrolls of Escape will now be consumed automatically if you disconnect while you're in combat. Because
good
this is a
change.
consumable item, we feel pretty good about the case where people are, and disconnecting on purpose. You're still going to consume that item, so we feel pretty good about this change. And it always sucks to die to a disconnect
Yes.
in hardcore.
Never fun.
Incenses, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course, will now grant a bonus to experience, and they will persist through death. So they'll be more useful. Now, this is a
additive?
big one. We
Oh.
have a bunch of different experience changes that we're going to go over here. You're going to see a few different references to
Wait a
different experience
minute.
changes. One of the things, and if you're playing Season 1, you'll notice that we
Wait a minute.
did make some adjustments to experience in Season 1 as well. That's sort of, all this is sort of coming together with some changes to how experience is calculated in terms of which things are multiplicative. So the way this will work is, in general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus
They're
from
all additive right now.
incenses that we just added, for example. You've got other experience bonuses maybe from seasonal blessings. These are going to add together in a bucket and then be multiplicative with your World Tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2 than they were in Season 1.
So you're going to level up even
cumulatively, as I said, there are
even
a number
faster.
of different experience bonuses here. And cumulatively, your time, compared to Season 1, your time to get to level 100 is going to be 40% faster
Yep, about 40% faster to reach level 100 in
than it
season
was
2.
in Season 1. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Season 2.
Holy
This is,
shit.
Why would we do that?
Well, we found that Season 2 is really about, we just talked about all of the boss changes that add more content
That's
to do
a
as you're leveling
colossal
up. We also
XP
want players
buff.
to be able to get to level 100. It's a goal that many players set for themselves, and it should be an achievable goal. And so in Season 1, we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated. You maybe get to level 75, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do, and this is just feels like it kind of slows down. And we really wanted to smooth that over and make the process of reaching that goal and getting to the end of the season journey feel like an achievable goal for all our players who invest time in the season. And of course, along the way, you're going to be having a lot more cool stuff to do with all of the boss ladder stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, these are good changes. I'm very excited about this.
So, as I said, we'll talk more about other changes to experience as we go through this. But moving on for the moment, when you skip the campaign to jump into the world, as many players do at the start of a season, you're going to have more waypoints that start unlocked.
That's
compared
nice.
to previous seasons. That means you don't have to do quite as much running to unlock waypoints as you're going.
Thank you.
This isn't every single waypoint, but it's key strategic waypoints that are related to places that you want to go and are centrally.
Thank
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to get around to like whispers that are in rotation as you're like leveling up your character initially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. I was just talking about
2 in each zone is
a number of changes to experience. There's also a suite
It's
of
not all of
changes
them,
to sort of
a
talent
lot.
efficiency, and this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little.
town efficiency.
This is a big one. I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now persist between seasons. So what this means is that when you create a new character in a season, you can still earn renown. You can still do side quests if that's something that you enjoy doing. You can go and do strongholds. You can do all of those content types.
So we get level
But
5 renown
all
at
of
the
the
start?
rewards that are associated with renown will persist. So if you had, and you don't have to, you're not going to have to log in on a different character or anything. Like
Oh,
any
thank
reward that you've
God.
claimed, if you claimed it in preseason, on Eternal, in Season 1, on any character, you're going to have that reward automatically when you create your new character in Season 2.
Thank
and this
God.
applies to all of those obols. It applies to skill points,
potion upgrades.
potion
Changes,
upgrades, all
yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
It's just nice to be able to start a new character and not feel like you have to go do every single side quest
Yes.
over again to get
Yeah.
all of the stuff.
Yeah, and this is something it's a really good point, Antonio, because when we are talking about these general improvements, what these came from is a lot like us, the dev team, playing the game, and I think Joe mentioned this before, but it's really important, playing the game and then reading feedback from players, feedback on social, feedback from videos, everything, and really looking at like what are players asking for, where are there places where we can make the game more fun, because we talked back in season
Watching
1,
content
like,
creator
our goal is to
videos.
continue making the game more fun for players, right? And so
I've
that's
been
this is
crying for
really,
3 months for you guys.
sort of the result of that. And,
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think making sure that players have more choices when they are able to log into their seasonal character.
Oh, they were
right away,
watching
not
the
feel like they've
titty
got this,
streamers? Damn
this
it.
oppressive goal of needing to completely fill out their
I
renown
felt
in order to play
important for one
optimally
moment
the
there.
season.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be really, really healthy and good for the experience. I'm really excited for players to be able to just be able to carry these things over with their characters. Now, you're not going to need to log in like you did last time when we made changes in the past. Now, like after you've claimed these rewards on a previous character, you're just going to have them on the future characters.
That's right, yeah. And I was going to say the.
I disrupted your flow.
No,
no.
it's all right.
Train of thought
Let's go to the
gone.
next. Let's go to the next bullet. Overworld monsters. Yes. So this relates to another change. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But overworld monsters will now match your player level in World Tiers 3 and 4. I know that this is in preseason it worked this way, and we ran into some challenges with the game not feeling like you were getting upgrades that really felt powerful, and players rightly called that out. Like, look, I want to get powerful new items, and then I want to smash monsters.
Yeah,
and
you want
that's-
to feel more powerful.
That's a
on your
really
level
core
and
part
such.
of the loop. So this change makes these monsters on par with your level. This is based on reviewing season 1, but it's coupled with some other changes that make sure that that it does feel meaningful and powerful,
Yeah.
and you're not just feeling like, oh, I'm just sort of playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
So they don't chase you, so they're not
And,
worth
of
killing,
course,
but they already
at the end of
already
season
weren't
1,
worth killing.
Your season
What?
1 character is going to migrate to the Eternal Realm, and so we've added 2 additional character slots to make sure that.
Wait, I don't have
you
to
plenty of
delete a
space
100 to
for-
play season 2 anymore?
Yeah, and one thing I do want to note is like when characters are migrating from season 1 to Eternal Realm, we actually have all that information that's going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be essentially talking about everything related to Season 2. And so all the details about how that actually happens, how that works, will be in that blog. It works very similar to, like, if you play Diablo 2 Resurrected, you'll know exactly how that works, and it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog afterwards.
Yeah,
so.
we'll go into detail about what happens with their items and how they carry over.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of great info there.
Okay, so next I think we have towns. Yeah, towns and vendors. Yeah. So a couple things we've changed here to make towns a little more efficient, and that's like really
Tree
a
of
focus
Whispers
ours
is
as
the
we
best
kind of move
waypoint
forward.
anyway, so
First
thank
up,
you.
The occultist is now set up by the Tree of Whispers.
I
So
only
when
go
you
to the
back
Tree of
into
Whispers, and
there
you
are
put
additional functions
the
you can
vampire
perform right
under the
there,
Tree of
rather than, like,
Whispers or
fly
one of the
off to
bosses,
Shot
so-
or anywhere else to go
Now
do
I'm
other
really
work.
only gonna go to the
So,
Tree of
that's nice
Whispers.
for the loop. We've gone through. We've added stashes much more liberally throughout Sanctuary. This is the first of those changes. So any small town with a waypoint attached to it is going to have a stash near it as well now.
I left this
Which is more
feedback
opportunity
2
to drop
years
things
ago.
off or pick things up as you're out there playing, either while you're leveling up a character from 1 to 50 and you just are finding things you want to drop off, or
good.
as you are playing in the end game and you're finishing whispers and things nearby. More opportunities to get to a stash. And then, additionally, we've added stashes to like near a lot of different vendors in capital cities. I think we have a video for this in just a moment, but we'll get to that in just a second, I think. But yeah, we've added more stashes all over the place. And then, of course, purveyors of curiosities. These lovable rogues, really tuck themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary. We're bringing them closer to the waypoints. We're reacclimating them to society, reintroducing them to the world, and just making sure that they're a lot easier to reach, as you can see here. With Jovashad, like the Purveyor of Curiosities is now
4
right in the tavern.
stashes.
So it's just a lot easier to go and spend your obols as you're accruing them, and it's harder for you to forget that you have obols, for example. You'll get more gear as you
The
are.
Purveyor is
playing.
right next to the
Purveyor has
waypoint.
become more social.
Yeah, become more willing to like integrate with the rest of the people in town. Yeah.
It's like he realized his shady dealings aren't actually going to get punished by anyone, so he just might as well do them out in the open.
Yeah, the law is a rough construct in many ways in Sanctuary. So in this way, that they're back in the good graces.
And I know, like, because we've heard from players, like, hey, spending time, they spend a lot of time in town, obviously. Like, if they're going to be
Town is
at the
lava.
blacksmith or at the purveyor, at the occultist or anything, this is now going to just help make that a little bit more efficient, especially if they're going between different areas or different towns. They can now find stashes everywhere, and a lot of it was, thanks to the feedback from players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I think that's about it for towns and vendors. There's plenty more stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Wanna talk
Okay,
about mounts?
keep it
Talk
going.
about mounts. This is something
I'll
that we
sit
talked
here all
about
day
before.
if you're
This
gonna
is
keep doing
something
this.
that,
Come on.
Mr. Joe Shelley had posted on the platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Did he make a post on
He made
X?
a post, not a tweet.
Not
did.
tweet.
He
That's
made
a
a
different
post.
thing. Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people ask about this ever since that post, and we mentioned that it'd be something that's coming in Season 2. So do you want to go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them.
Mounts.
The first off, there are a number of changes to mounts, but I want to call out that the one that players and we feel is the most significant here is just that they're going to get stuck less, right? So when you're trying to turn your mount like in a tight corner, or you're trying to navigate through a narrow space, the mount is going to much less frequently come to a dead stop or slow down dramatically.
Can actually ride the
And
mount.
part of that as well is mounts can jump over regular jump traversals just like your player, but we're a little bit finicky about it.
They were very good.
I think some people didn't. In practice, they didn't always. They were a little bit too scared of jumping over traversals. So we fixed that. It's much more smooth now. So a lot less dismounting as you're traveling around the world. We also increased the base movement speed of mounts. This means that traveling on your mount in town, for example, will be faster. We didn't increase the top speed of the boost, so the maximum boost speed is still the same.
Wait a minute.
But your base
This is
movement
what
speed unboosted is
the
going to be 14%
speed boost lasts
faster.
50% longer.
We also made a
you
change.
can speed boost
and
forever
this is
now.
one that players point out. We have sort of a cool. I think it's like a very cool system for allowing the mouse to
speed
have
boost forever
analog
now.
control with the mouse and keyboard. But the consequence of this is that it was sort of finicky. You really had to have the mouse cursor at the edge of the screen to get full speed. And if you had a little bit farther away, you kind of felt like, well, am I actually at full speed? So you really felt like it has to be at the edge of the screen at all times. Because of course, when you're riding through the world, you want to be
subs,
going
guys.
as fast
Everybody,
as you can,
thank
right?
you.
And so we made a change here. We didn't remove. Some players have suggested let's just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that makes it. The cursor is much more generous about allowing you to be at full speed. It's about half or so of the screen. Beyond that, it'll be at full speed. And so you really have to have the cursor close to your mount if you do want to slow down.
It's still a better change,
because it is still
but
handy for navigating
why
around
doesn't it just
between,
make the mount go
tight
full
areas.
speed all the time?
So big improvement for mouse and
Do you
keyboard.
guys
users
like
there.
your mount to
Yeah,
ever
it just
go
makes the mount a little
not
less,
at full speed?
A little easier to use in general, right?
I don't understand.
It's easier to
It's for
reach
the
that top
role
speed.
play.
You don't have to have the mouse as far away and be planning.
Give me a break,
your path
dude.
at the very edge of the screen constantly. It's
Immersion,
just
Rax,
how people
immersion.
play and when they're moving in the game.
Yeah.
It's usually a bit closer to their character when they choose their movement options with the mouse. So yeah, feels really good.
I think between the faster mount and moving.
Yeah, how could you
the
play a
important
necro
things
if you're
closer
going
to the
fast?
waypoint, That
True.
is the 40%.
Oh, that's the 40%. Yeah.
that is 41%. Those experience changes are massive. So.
Yeah. This is just additive to it.
But I think it's a great point because as Adam was saying as well, town efficiency is also something that players care a lot about, right? So I mentioned the speed, the spur. This is your speed boost on the mount. We increased the duration. The rate at which you you acquire spur charges is the same. So that means that with
So
the
you didn't increase
duration,
the
you're going to
cooldown.
be able to be boosted a lot more of the time.
Yeah, you can
Way more- way
you
more
can
spur
boost
uptime.
forever
Yeah,
now.
quite. It's
Yeah. So
close
they didn't
to,
change the
close to
cooldown,
100%, I think.
and they
it's
boost the
pretty,
duration by 50%.
It's pretty.
Means you can sprint all the
significant.
time now.
And of course, this is great because those pesky barricades that would previously cause your mount to stop can be broken through, so you don't need to dismount unless you want to.
Right.
Thank
It's fancy
God, man.
in slide video. Just added. The quality of the production has just gone up. Just as oh, look at this.
We got some
Wow.
Swipe. Fancy.
So you can see the player boosting through the barricade there. You also see the player using their dismount skill, and we have some changes related to that as well. So some cooldown changes.
Oh yeah, these are really big.
So as Adam mentioned, I posted about this on social media, and one of the things that we were experimenting with is having the mount cooldown reset after you take a traversal, because of course you get off your mount, you take a traversal, and then there's a cooldown before you can mount again. It just feels sort of arbitrary, why that's slowing down the game for no reason, right? So we tested that in practice.
I made a whole video
we found
about
that
slowing me
while
down
it was
for no
cool,
reason.
What was even better is just reducing the base cooldown of the mount across the board. So mount cooldown goes down from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. If you're taking a lot of damage while you're mounted and you get knocked off your horse, the cooldown for getting back on the horse also halved from 30 seconds to 15. And as I mentioned, the dismount combat skill, this is a really cool skill. We want it to feel like players can use it and feel powerful. So this is actually the cool up on it.
I think
when you jump onto your mount, there's a few seconds before you can use it, and 10 seconds felt way too long, so we reduced it to 3.
I think
Yeah,
the
it's
reason
much more
that
fun
they
to
have
just
the
get on your
cooldown
mount,
at all
if
is
you
for
see
the
a pack of
PvP
creatures you need
zones.
for a quest or for a whisper or anything else. Be able to just disengage right into them, and start the fight right away, as opposed to having to wait.
You can use your mount in
I
PvP
would,
zones,
I would
can't you?
make circles around attacks,
if you have
just-
2 seconds left or something.
So wait, hold on, monsters. I'm going to do this cool ability.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
wait, give me a little
wait.
bit.
Just wait, it's happening. I promise. Yeah. So
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
awesome. So
I mean,
know,
yeah, no one
Oh,
PvPs.
Wow. Okay. We have production behind the scenes, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
is
honestly-
they're just smiling back there as they make these crazy swipes between transitions. But We are now going to talk about some changes coming for Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we, Antonio, I know.
Okay.
Kind of take us through all our changes here.
Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is this
Antonio,
is what I
this
work on. So, yeah, we have tons of
This is the
changes
first
for
thing I
Nightmare
said.
Dungeons coming this season.
Thank
the very
you.
first big change that we have is teleporting to a Nightmare Dungeon from the map will take the players directly inside the dungeon instead of to the dungeon entrance. This will cut down on having the double load screens when you just want to go and play
These transitions.
more, grind more Nightmare Dungeons and get your Paragon points up.
Yes.
I think this is a pretty, this will be a pretty popular change. I think this is
Yes,
something that
it
people have wanted
will
for a
be a
while,
very
ever since we
popular
First
change.
implemented teleporting to Nightmare Dungeons.
Yeah, getting rid of this extra load screen, I think is going to be a huge boon.
Now you need to
for
do
me.
the thing where I
I'm
said
for it.
instead of freeing 7 prisoners, have us free 2 prisoners.
All right. Okay, and
Events?
it's funny enough. What is our What is our stream software thing that we use? vMix. People are claiming we're doing this in PowerPoint. It's actually through vMix. So credit to the. We could have gone the easy way out and done PowerPoint.
So this is the
No.
this is like the
All right, sorry for
this is like the wayward soul, lost
Moving
souls or
on,
whatever.
Back to Nightmare Dungeons. So our dungeon events have more monster density now. And also, more importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs will no longer get
So,
one shot. So they will
The
not
second
be
part doesn't really
completely
matter
useless,
that
or
much. The
events
first
won't
part
be
matters
hopeless when you're
because
trying to
then the
defend
XP
someone
per hour
from
for doing the
an
event
onslaught of
within the
monsters.
dungeon is
Yeah, in
worth
general, I
it.
think this is gonna be
And the
great for
rewards, they
increasing
give you
the
like
perceived
flowers and
efficiency
stuff
of,
to craft
dungeon events
potions,
across
so
the
you
board.
don't
Right,
have to go
right.
farm somewhere else.
For you to be like, my friends.
now
and
that
I
you
are like,
actually
okay,
do
well,
the
your friends and you're
event,
gonna be okay. Like, I'm just gonna leave.
It's a good
Yeah,
change.
we're
but
looking at
they
dungeon
missed
events
one critical
a lot
thing,
just
though.
between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun to play and people want to engage with them. And this is kind of one of those things.
There's
that
something
we
that
saw,
they
like,
have
yeah,
to
we can
change,
do
though.
this.
Yeah.
The event needs to start immediately when you walk in, and it needs to end
Yeah,
immediately
so
when
next,
when
we
it's
have,
over.
Traps.
And it doesn't do
in
that.
our dungeons, the overall readability has been improved, and the crowd control on the player has been reduced. Look at that slow motion.
Slow motion action shot.
So it will be easier to see these, and more importantly, when you do get hit by them, you are not CC'd long enough to where you will just instantly die all the time.
That's fine,
Yeah,
but
and I wanna-
traps
I
are
wanna
not
call
the
this out
problem,
to
though.
the players, I want to make sure players are not confused about this.
Traps are not the
We're
problem.
not just talking about CC on the traps, right?
Right,
Thank
We're
you.
talking about just CC across the board from monsters, just in general. Like,
Dude, I'm gonna pull up
your
my
CC
YouTube,
time will be
look.
decreased.
Yeah. So if I get
Remember this one?
If I get stunned by a vampire knight, I'm going to spend less time CC'd.
Right,
waiting, yeah.
right. Less time CC'd and less time going back and restarting the Nightmare Dungeon because you died.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
Remember
Exactly.
this one with Jack
Yeah,
Nicholson
there's a
Frozen?
pretty extensive
June
amount of changes
15th.
coming for CC. So when players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full run through of all the changes that are coming up for CC.
Yeah, very cool.
All right.
Instant
What else we
replay
got?
quality footage.
Yeah, I know. I do love this.
I
footage.
can't get enough of it.
Yep. Oh, fragments. Interesting. I wonder what those are.
And also, our Paragon glyph experience has been increased. This sort of falls in line with like the 40%
Okay,
faster.
you get to level
leveling
15
to 100.
faster?
You also will get your Paragon glyph leveled a bit faster, so that as you are leveling
Okay.
up, your Paragon scales effectively with it, and you can feel more powerful faster.
Okay. Okay.
That's it, though, right? Oh no, wait. There's a whole other section.
No, there's more stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, then sure.
You can't
Talk
have
about,
Nightmare Dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
true. Talk about afflictions.
So we have a number of changes to some of our afflictions. We are constantly looking at these and evaluating player feedback. The first one up that I have to talk about is backstabbers. So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage, which led to a lot of cases where players were getting one shot, right? So we changed this so that the close monsters attacks from behind will now cause you to become vulnerable, and then that vulnerable damage that you take is increased on a scaling metric. So the higher the dungeon tier, the more damage that you will take. This gives you a little bit more opportunity to have a bit of counterplay. It's not just all of a sudden like you're dead. You can play around this. You can react to it. If you manage to make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
It seems
You can
like
strategize
it's
and
better,
pivot,
but without knowing the
so that
numbers,
you
we don't really
don't
know that it's better, but
die.
just trust
Yeah, I mean, just
that
that
they made
vulnerable
it better.
condition there does give you that opportunity to sort of see, like, actually, look, yeah, my health globe is cracked now. Yeah, okay, I need to
don't
be more
know if
careful
that's
as I'm,
better
as
until
I'm getting
we
hit, because creature can do
See
a
the
lot more damage
numbers,
in 1
but
minute
it's
state.
probably
Right.
better
Yeah.
because at least they have to hit you twice now.
For monster critical resist, now the monster attacks reduce the damage of your critical strikes for 3 seconds, and then this also scales by the dungeon tier. So now once again, like if this happens to you, you have the opportunity to play around it, and it's not just completely nerfing your damage the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this one, this affliction particularly, because it was a massive reduction in damage overall, because you didn't have any control over it either, right?
Right.
And with the
just
changes,
in general, what
if
we
they
want to
nerf crit
avoid
in
are
general,
afflictions that are instant salvage.
At
right?
least
We
it's
don't
an
want you to
affliction now.
look at your sigils and say, "Oh, I don't want to play that,"
And
then
they might
just
nerf
toss
the
it every
stat
single
in
time
general,
see it.
so you don't really care.
This is
So
sort of like a greater
this is
effort to make
probably
this a bit
fine.
more fun, so you can see it and know that like it's going to be more difficult, but not unplayable.
Right.
well, Backstabber was a huge problem for hardcore.
Death Pulse. So
Hardcore
we made some
players kept
changes
dying
to
to
Death
Backstabber.
Pulse. Now we prevent the death pulses from monsters that already have death explosions, like the lunatics. And we also prevent death pulses from spawning on top of each other or chaining with each other, so that you don't have to worry about an entire dungeon tile filling up with just death explosions that will one-shot you.
This is such a great change. So many times the lunatic explodes, and I'm like,
Yep.
all right,
Yeah.
I'm all good. And then I run in and like, no,
The
there's
lunatic
more
was bad
explosions.
enough. Yeah. And
On death explosion,
good.
it should not be in any
There
video
you go.
game. I've said
Lightning
it 1,000
Storm.
times. Any
Being
form of
shocked
it.
while in a bubble grants 35% bonus movement speed for 5 seconds. This is a change coupled with the other changes, where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when you have a direct path to the protection bubble. These holistic changes were basically implemented to make sure that Lightning Storm doesn't slow down your Nightmare Dungeon exploration. What we were seeing a lot was players wanted to get through the Nightmare Dungeons quickly, but when they had Lightning Storm, they had to like stop, run backwards, go hide in the
third
bubble.
thing does not
wait,
solve the
then
problem.
make up that lost time, stop, go backwards.
Yep.
So
If
the
you
movement
s-
speed bonus helps a ton because it helps you make up that lost time faster. And then these other two changes mostly focus on some of the more egregious examples where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason it's just a little too far behind you and it's difficult to get to. These will ensure that you know when the lightning storm is going to happen, and you know there is a way to get to the bubble.
Yeah. that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but the what it doesn't cover is when a
And
light.
finally, Drifting Shade. The
I'll just tell
duration
them
of the
later.
Drifting Shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the respawn time has increased by 2 seconds. So similarly to Lightning Storm, we didn't want cases where the Drifting Shade pops up and then players spend more of their time running circles around the Drifting Shade than they do focusing on completing the dungeon itself. So this should make it a little bit easier for the dungeons for you to be able to navigate the dungeons with Drifting Shade and not just want to avoid it completely.
The third bullet point on
That's
lightning
great.
storm doesn't solve the problem of when the lightning storm spawns and
More.
right in that
Yep,
moment
more
you go
nightmare
down a
dungeons,
ladder,
sorry.
you still get zapped.
So
You had a
this
direct
is,
path when it spawned,
in addition to
but 1
Nightmare
millisecond
Dungeons, it's
later
also
you
for,
didn't. Or when you go
normal
into an
dungeons,
event.
But we changed some of the objectives for a handful of dungeons. You will see this in the Nightmare Dungeons for this season specifically. But we removed the objectives so that now when you go into the
We did
dungeon, all you have to do
I
is
told them to
really
take
just
the
go
prisoners
find the
from
boss.
7 to
You can focus
2.
on the critical path.
They just
There are
straight up
dungeon
removed them.
Events and other things
That's
going
even better.
on that are optional. But if you want to go
Really?
in and find the boss, you can just go in and go straight to the boss. So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've implemented it on, and we're definitely
Wow.
keeping an eye out on player feedback to see how they like it.
I know Rax, who's watching, has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now. Hearing that, I'm sure.
I'm about to cry.
And finally,
we don't have to free any
for
fucking
the
prisoners.
Pool of Nightmare Dungeons this season, like we do every season, we've went and evaluated.
This
the
whole
dungeon
PowerPoint has
layouts,
been my
and we've
YouTube for the last 3
redesigned,
months.
A number of these. So for the ones that do have objectives, we've changed them to limit backtracking even further. But we also wanted to be conscious of making the dungeons just feel too linear. So we found a good balance.
We
where
did it, boys.
The player can engage in the objectives and the content without having to spend so much time running back and forth, which also contributes to the 40% increase to get to level 100. But as you can see here, here's one of the nightmare dungeons that we have for season 2. In this first objective here, we had our elites that you needed to kill. They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where if you took a wrong turn and then you realized too late that you missed one, you have to go all the way back and track that guy down and waste a ton of time. So we moved these objectives to the critical path. So as long as you're just on the main path, on the main loop, you will encounter them. And even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant. So it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
All right. Next, we have
Damn.
a bunch of updates to world events.
Yeah, world events. And
Okay, world events. World events suck.
Let's talk about that. Let's bring it up.
Are we actually going to go to the open world for once?
I think.
There we go.
There it is. Yes. So yeah.
So Legion events are the only good thing in the game
looking for
currently.
more uptime on some of these events. They're looking for more
Except for maybe
opportunities to
Helltide.
engage with this kind of content. So we made some changes as part of season 2. So right off the bat, Legion events time between events has been reduced from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. They're going to be more. You'll find them more frequently as you're playing. This is great because you do want to go farm these to get the materials you need to go fight Lord Zir.
Yes.
Particularly when you're in World Tier 4. So great opportunities for you to go and do these things. We've increased the duration of the warning timer. Moved that from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. One of the big reasons why we did this, and we did this in a few different places, but one of the reasons we did this is in situations where the player's like wrapping up a nightmare dungeon or they're just in an instance. I want to give them a chance for them to pop out.
So world bosses and Legion events just spawn more often.
Don't try to chase that down. We also fixed some minor issues here where like
the Legion events are one of the best ways to level up, by the way.
If a Whisper was active for that
1 to 50 Legion events are
at the moment,
pretty
we really
massive.
Want players to go after
They're very strong.
It wasn't really showing up. We made the same change for world bosses. Now for world boss spawns, similarly we made another change here. We reduced the duration between uptimes for the world boss from 6 hours to 3.5 hours. So these are going to be much more available for players to find and chase down as they play.
Yeah, it was something that, players have been talking about, hey, I have a set schedule, or I'm always at work when these world boss spawns occurs. So now there's more opportunities for players to end up getting their chance at a world boss, which is really good.
There's another 2-hour stream coming of changes. There's another 2-hour stream.
From 30 minutes to 60 minutes to really let you know when they're about to start. You can go plan to go and hit these because, again, these have slightly higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well. So those are
in a few days, not today. But they have another one of these for updates to Diablo 4.
From spawning. So again, doubling down, making sure the players are aware the world boss is about to kick off, so you don't have those situations where you just missed
on the
it,
10th,
didn't realize it was up. So we think that these are going to be some changes that are going to help that quite a bit.
The season announcement was pretty meh.
Endgame activities.
Yeah, let's go. I can just keep going from here.
Endgame activities.
One of the things we found in Whisper Cache is it used to be when you got into World Tier 3 and you're starting to get your first like sacred sigils and such, that when you finish Whisper Cache, you got effectively like the lowest sigil tier key from that tier, from that world tier. So now the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn in all your whispers and you get your new summoning materials for Varshan, and you also get a random nightmare sigil on turn-in, that sigil is always going to be within 5 levels of the highest nightmare dungeon you complete in that tier. So they're always going to be more
I was
relevant
trying to
for
think
you,
of a way that
based on
this
your
would be
current
bad, but I
progression
actually
as you
think this
continue
is
to go.
good in
So I
every
think that's gonna be
scenario.
fun change
Even
for
if you've
players.
cleared a Nightmare Dungeon 100, giving you
Next-
that high
yeah,
of a
so I
key
wanna-
if you
really wanna
salvage
hammer
it
down this.
and want to farm.
So gold rewards from Whisper caches have been really significantly increased, greatly increased. one might say.
Greatly
increased.
That's why it's,
Yeah,
that's
but-
why it's in a different color. We
It's-
wanna
That's nice, but
very
what you
much
need to
emphasize
nerf,
greatly.
as we talked
So
about a
if
million
you're looking
times,
for gold,
is
for
you
your
need to
build,
nerf
whether
the
you're trying to do, like, a
scaling
massive respec,
increases
your
of the
character, or you're looking
rerolls.
for the
This
chance
is
to
one way to
reroll
fix
many
it,
more
but I'd
times
rather
on an
you-
item to get exactly
I'd rather you
the
instead
affixes that you're looking
fix
for.
the
You know,
exponential
Whispers end up being a
scaling
really
of
great
the
source of gold for you
rerolling.
to continue to farm as you're getting into the end game.
But this is-
and remains so as you go. So it's going to be a really big
I'll
change
take
to
it.
be able to engage with as you play. And then, so next up, so I know Joe already talked about some of the changes we're making to experience in other places. Here,
Okay.
we've also made sure that like Whisper turn-ins, you know, for all your bounties and
So wait a
Helltide
minute.
caches.
Is this
the
gonna be
XP
better
rewards
than
from those,
dopamine
those
tunnels?
moments are much more substantial in this point. We're okay with the idea that like that Nightmare Dungeons
Do you
remain
just
a really
do the
great
overworld
source of
Legion
experience
events
for players.
and the
That's fine.
Whispers and
We
turn
wanna
it
make
in?
sure
Could
that
that
Whispers
possibly
and
be
Helltide
faster?
features in
Probably
particular
not.
Are brought up.
You would
so
have
that
to
they are more
buff it
competitive with Nightmare Dungeons.
tremendously.
Now that there's
we
also
need
the
some
addition of
we need
some
some
materials you
numbers
need
here.
from these content
Like
sites.
how
There are
much
also
did you
other
buff
rewards,
it?
and then even gold from Whispers. There's other rewards you're going to be getting at the same time. So while experience from Whispers is really dramatically increased, be really great,
Like,
particularly on the 1 to 50.
how
If you wanna
much
use more
did you
Whispers
buff it?
Essentially level up than you have in the past. You know, there are advantages, no matter which way you want to go. And then, yeah, some minor things here. So Whisper caches, we're granting items from the that reward moment that weren't always tied to the item slot associated with the cache. So we've gone through, we've made some changes on the loot side to ensure that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then you're always going to get boots from that cache.
I always thought
So
that was
that's gonna be,
weird.
changed.
Like
That's
you get
also,
a
that change has
you
been
buy a
populated
boots
in your
cache
propagated
and you
to
get like
Helltide
2
caches as
weapons.
well.
I'm like,
It shouldn't be the case anymore.
why
You
did you
end
why
up
did you
opening
even
into
label
weapon
them a
cache and
boot
just get a brain
cache? So
or something along
I'll
those
take
lines.
it.
And then also, Helltide chests now also have specific icons on the map to indicate their type. So if you're trying to figure out exactly where rings could be found or where you could find light weapons or whatever else, it's a little bit easier for you to find those things from the map level.
Quality of life on the
So
map.
yeah, some good
Thank
changes for
you.
in-game activity stuff there.
All right. Next, we got some UI and UX changes. I know that we're
UI, okay.
putting into the game. Joe.
Wow. People
Yeah,
people have been begging for this.
Of course, players have been able to mark items as junk for a while now, and you can
Wow.
once an item is marked as junk, you can actually sell all junk in your inventory, which is pretty handy.
You can
it's really
favorite
sort of,
an item so
some
you don't
players-
accidentally salvage it.
Players have different ways that they want to manage their inventory. You know, they've got players who are like, I want to go back to
Everyone
town,
has
and then I want
said
to do all
it's
this,
way better to
or
mark
I wanna do it
something
in the
a
field.
favorite
and so we
than
want
to mark
provide more
junk
flexibility
junk.
for
So they
players who
added
like
the
to manage their
favorite,
inventory in
which
different
is
ways.
way better way
to
than
do
marking
that. So we've
junk.
added the ability to favorite items, and of course,
That's
this protects
way
from
better.
situations where you might have accidentally salvaged or sold an item that is really important. When you use the sort button in your inventory or in your stash, the aspects that have the same power will now be sorted together so that they're easier to find.
Yeah, helps out a lot.
But instead, just change the codex of power to the suggestion on the live stream. But I mean, we'll take it. But
This
do the
one
codex
is a
of
little
power
bit
change.
subtle. So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance, something like that, the sorting of those affixes is now consistent within the type of affix that it is. So if you have 2 items that both have strength on them, the strength is going to appear in the same
This was
location
the first
vertically
piece
in
of
the
feedback
list of
I ever
affixes,
gave in the
which makes it
alpha
a little
of
bit
the
easier
game
to
was
evaluate
this.
When you're comparing
The
both items,
hierarchy
yeah,
of the
exactly.
affixes on items is inconsistent. That's a
and
super good
a
change.
dungeon map tooltips.
That's the
this
first
is- I know,
feedback I
Adam,
ever
this is
gave
one
in
that-
Diablo 4.
that-
This is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they'll now display, when there's an active whisper, they'll now display the aspect name and the description. it's no longer hidden by the Whisper being active on the dungeon.
Yeah, everyone's got a like one or two things
we'll take it.
in particular that are
that doesn't
fairly
matter, really,
like small in isolation. They're like,
better
oh,
than nothing.
thank God that thing is like that one thing got updated, which is great.
The sorting of the normal affixes on items is a super important thing.
This is a really cool one. You can now search and filter your stash.
Search and filter the
we have video of
stash?
this includes text search. You've got a bunch of different filters down there. You can filter by item type, item rarity. You can filter by sacred and
Holy
ancestral
shit!
items. And then you can see there at the bottom we've got a text box, so you can search for keywords and other text on the item. And this searches across all your stash tabs too. So if you take a look at the top there, you can see
and
that
it
the,
auto
box will
searches
have been
every
invited
tab.
Holy
shit!
You can see that there are 4 items.
These
in this
guys
tab
booted up
that
last
have,
epoch.
the
They're like, oh,
filter
hell
criteria
no.
and, none in the.
They're like,
or in this
hell
case,
nah.
There are 3 in that tab and 1 in the other tab. So they're highlighted, so make it easier for players to search through and find items in their stash.
Wait, they said filter. Do we count that or not? They didn't say loot filter, but they said
filter. A lot
filter.
of our UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either
Does that
from
count or
social
not?
media or on our forums.
No,
Absolutely.
no.
Yeah.
Guys, just let me fill out my bingo card.
We have some more. Players that want to hide identifying information, like character names or BattleNet tags for other players, can now find these settings in the social options menu.
That's right, streamers. You got streamer mode.
Streamer mode.
And this is a one that we've seen a lot of feedback on. Players want to be able to hide vulnerable, the status effect text, so vulnerable, dodge, fortified.
I like
This is
that.
An option has been added.
You make
to
it more
the,
clean.
To the menu to
I like
hide
that.
those, so you can hide them along with hiding
Damn.
combat numbers.
Yeah, this is
Blizzard, what have you guys been doing the last 3 months or month or whatever? What was different about this month than
Yeah, they'd be like, I can hide the
all the
numbers,
other
but I can't
times?
hide,
How did you do all this shit
fortify,
in?
fortify.
There's another
Totally
stream
fair.
of
Happy to get this out to
changes.
players.
How
Yeah.
did you do all of this in a month?
And we've added an auto run feature, so you can bind a key to auto run.
Auto run.
And then you can the character will run in the direction that they're facing on a controller, or the direction that you the mouse cursor, where the mouse cursor is located. So you can start auto running, and then you can review your inventory, bring up the map, do those kinds of things.
Because they're game tanked.
Awesome.
They're game tanked, so they started
And,
working.
we have a lot of
One more thing.
Oh,
This I don't want to forget this
I'm
one.
like, see, we have so much stuff, and I know I try to get ahead of myself. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
but
let's
this
go
one,
to the next section.
this one is important. Antonio was talking about the improvements to Nightmare Dungeons to help navigate through them. This change to the minimap significantly zooms out the base zoom level of the minimap, and this will really help players.
I like that,
navigate
but
through
I want to
towns,
zoom out
navigate
further
through some
on
areas of the
my
world that
character.
are, sort of more dense in terms
I
of
want to
terrain
zoom out on
and
my character.
obstructions.
Can we get that?
And navigate in dungeons. This means that when you're in a dungeon, you can see more of the dungeon layout that's near your player on the minimap than you could before.
Yeah, if you're approaching a fork in the overworld, you're not sure which way leads back to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players.
And I know now I can get ahead of myself here. We
good.
have a lot of updates regarding items as well
Yes.
that we do want to kind of go over.
Holy
So,
shit! This is the
sure,
best
Joey P.
thing ever.
Oh yeah, sure. Happy to talk about some things.
Items.
So yeah, we made a few changes. I know that some things we've already talked about a bit before, right? But here, gems no longer drop directly as rewards. Now players can be earning these new gem shards as fragments materials they can use.
That
as a
saves
tool to
you a
craft
row
their
or
own
two
gems.
of stash space.
So basically, as you're wandering through the world and you're killing monsters, you're opening chests, you're gonna be dropping these fragments as you play, and rather than having like individual items that go into your inventory, these shards are gonna go into your materials tab, and then as you want to create gems, you can go back to the jeweler. You can spend those fragments to create gems rather that will go into your inventory that you can then slot on items the way that you like. So it basically takes all of those gems that have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory, It gives you the option as the player to choose when you want to go and create gems that you need
good.
for your items.
It's gonna save us a
just
row or
to
two of
make sure
space.
people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory, which then allows you to then, of course, sock it into an item. But now you won't be finding all those gems out in the world that will fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as materials.
It's a good change.
That's right.
It's a good
within your
change.
Materials tab.
And you'll also be able to
We need
salvage
this.
those gems that you do
Yes.
create, and then use those materials to go and create better gems.
You can salvage
So,
them.
yeah, big
Oh,
changes
that's
there.
great.
It frees up a lot of inventory
You
space.
can
Feels good.
salvage the gems if you have extra
Enchantment
into
cost been
materials to
updated. What
recreate.
a strange pseudo line,
What a
right?
very general-
Enchantment
so
costs!
the ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment costs overall have been reduced, but the way that works
has
out
to be
that
the
your
scaling,
initial
though.
enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently for your first enchant, the first time that you do it.
Right, but you
And
nerf the
then
scaling.
The progression of the cost of that, of re-enchanting that item is going to go up much more slowly over time. And, it's
Yes,
not going to spike
dude.
quite as quickly. So
Yes.
players overall, it's going to be a little bit less expensive for players to go and try to re-roll items to their heart's content. To find
And we have the increased
you know,
gold.
and this partner
You
with
have the
changes that we
increased
made
gold,
to Whisper Bounty
and
cash
you have
coins,
the
we get,
costs
like,
going down.
Way more gold from at those
Greatly
moments.
increased.
Greatly, significantly increased in those situations are going to help those defer a lot of those costs.
You can
for
actually
players
re-roll
if you don't
in the
end up using
game
a lot
now.
of that gold to go and trade and do other things instead. So yeah, big changes there. Okay, so another really big change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line and then I'll explain it. So craft materials will drop in place of lower item power. Normal
That's what
magic,
Diablo
and rare
3
equipment in
did,
World Tier
and
3.
people loved it.
What do I mean when I say that?
They're salvaging
I
the
mean is when you go into World Tier
shitty
3
things,
and you start getting
and it's
sacred
just
items dropping
materials
from
that you just
monsters,
auto pick
you will
up.
find that you will no longer be having normal items.
That's
dropping
fucking
from monsters.
godly.
Only items that will drop from monsters in
Bro.
World Tier 3 will be sacred in nature. They're equipable gear.
Bro.
So the instead, when you would have got like a rare item before, you know, that is going to be, you're going to get crafting materials that you can use instead, dropping on the ground if you just go run over and pick up, as opposed to having that rare item.
Why didn't
in
we
your
do this
inventory.
stuff before?
And this is another one of the reasons why we made this big change, the Whisper Gold increase. We made some other gold increases as well, to basically offset any concerns that players might have about needing
Wow.
to sell off all of those typical
Yeah,
rare
this
items.
is a
as they're
pseudo
progressing through.
loot filter.
Now, I
It's
will
not
say
a
that
loot
if
filter,
a legendary
but it
item drops
salvages
for you
a bunch of
that is
shitty
normal
stuff.
quality that you could have got level 50. You know,
Auto
in World Tier
salvages
2.
shitty
If a
stuff.
legendary item drops for you, that will still appear for you in World Tier 3.
That's kind of a
That will,
pseudo
you're not gonna
loot
be losing
filter.
out on legendary items that potentially could drop for you in part of the experience. When you go into World Tier 4,
It's like a partial
only
filter.
ancestral items will drop for you as you're playing. You will no longer see sacred items or
Yeah,
normal items.
they just
from that
got
point
to the
forward.
alpha
Once
feedback
again,
document.
Legendary and unique items in that case. Of
I'm
sacred
I'm
nature or
very
normal
impressed.
nature will still continue to appear for you. As
I'm
you
very
continue to play.
impressed.
But you know, for the most part, getting a ton
Not with the
of these
season
items
2
out of your
really, but-
inventory as part of this change.
Yeah,
The
it's
bosses was pretty
and the
good, and this is godly.
Changes are going to help out a lot with inventory management for players and ensure that they're focusing.
Sacred
on
items
the
do
items
drop
that they're
in
really
World
gonna
Tier
want,
4.
and
What do you
of course
mean?
Getting the benefit of getting all the materials now.
Yeah,
From the items.
right.
That were
The
dropping
rare
beforehand,
in
they'll just
the
now be,
sacred rare in
materials
World
that
Tier
will be in
4
the
is going to get
materials tab.
auto salvage
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Right.
So yeah, that's not even
Right,
the end
right,
of the
right.
big changes we have planned. So another thing we're doing as part
That's
of
what I-
season
that's
2,
what I
and
assumed
again, this is
that
on
it
the
meant.
Eternal Realm and also on the Seasonal Realm.
That's a good thing.
Is when you're starting to go into World Tier 3 and 4, items that are dropping for you are going to get more powerful based on the monster level that you're fighting. You know, this is in response to all of the item changes we're making in response to player feedback.
changed
between
the progression
preseason
system?
and Season 1. Season 2 represents the first really great opportunity that we've had to spend a good amount of time kind of responding to this feedback, getting things tested, getting things into the game. So we're really excited to offer things like this. But you know, there's situations where players will get into World Tier 3. You know, they'll finish off a lot of the gear that they need inside Sacred Tier fairly early.
Yeah,
You know,
you're fully geared by your
56.
time you're level
You know, they start getting ready to
75.
make the transition potentially early into World Tier 4 to get into their Ancestral Tier. And then that can end up in a situation where by the time that you are level 65, 68, 70, you've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for. You know, once you get
Yes,
into that
that's
tier.
exactly
you might have
the
already
problem.
got all of the gear that you're looking for, particularly eye power wise, as you're progressing through.
Yes.
Now the way that we've changed things is that starting in Sacred Tier, I guess we'll talk about Sacred Tier first. So if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical Sacred eye power range when you're fighting that creature. When you fight a level 56 creature, the eye power minimum and maximum of that range increases by 2.
And the
so
minimum.
every monster level from that point forward, the eye power of the potential output of that item is higher as a result of that, to encourage players to want to go and try to fight higher level, more difficult creatures as they're progressing through the game. When we talked before about the monster trailing change that we made, the monster level trailing change we made earlier in the presentation today, Joe mentioned that was kind of aligned with some other things we were trying to do to make sure the players felt they were getting more powerful as time progressed. And part of that is ensuring the players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the things we've wanted to try to ensure is that players do have the time needed to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. But we don't want the player to feel like in an effort to hit that solution, the feeling of not feeling and not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear fairly early, that's not worth the cost of making sure that you've got your time to get your things together. So instead, we want to make sure that you have opportunities for upgrades as time goes on, right? So in World Tier 4, starting at level 75, you'll have the typical range, but then that continues to go up by 2, for every monster level above that, so, going up pretty high. Once you get to level 100, now you're dealing with ancestral items of eye power potential of 920 at that point. And that's just at level 100, right? Once you start fighting higher level monsters than level 100, when you're fighting like level 101 monsters, level 102 monsters, the minimum range of the item
that impacts
goes up
weapons
by 1
and
for every monster level
offhands.
from that point forward.
I guess
So
it
you'll get
depends
to
on
a
their
point when you're
resistance
fighting level,
changes
like,
in the next
150
thing,
creatures
but
and such, that
there's a huge potential that this
eye
does
power
not
range of
matter
that
for
item,
most of your
155
gear,
monsters and such.
unless there's
the
an
eye power ranges
inflection
of those
point
items are effectively like
within
on
that
par. Like they
tier.
are, it's like
It's
920
gonna really matter.
920 is like the end result long term as you go deeper and deeper into the system.
Yeah, so you start to shrink down that window.
Yeah, you slowly shrink down that window so that as
It's
you're
going to
getting
depend
drops
on
for
their
yourself
implementation
in
of
the
it.
world,
It's
and-
going to
and-
really
and
matter
in
for
mega
weapons,
dungeons and
which
other
is
content
good.
types, like
I have
you're
no idea
much
if it
more
will
likely to
matter
get the
for
maxed out
armors
high
or
power rolls
jewelry,
you're
though.
looking for. Now, one change we didn't make as part of this is we didn't change the ranges on affixes that are attached to these. So the change that we're talking about here is getting you more weapon damage on your weapons,
Yes.
more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent resistance, which is so much more important now in season 2 than it was in the past.
So they just repeated what I just
That will continue
said.
to grow as you get more eye power for these gear pieces.
So they've thought of this.
So now this
Well,
is naturally going to
let's
push players
see.
to fight more difficult monsters, and we want that. We think that's fun.
It's going to matter for weapons for sure. Not sure about the other pieces. We'll
also
see.
provide the opportunity for meaningful
It's good though.
rewards as well.
It's good change.
So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better. We should say that they're 5 monster levels higher than what you would normally get, because usually rewards that you get from these caches are based on your character level at the moment that you turn these things in, based on the world tier that
They're
you're in.
really,
Now there's an
really
offset, so you get
pumping
additional
the
item power value
overworld,
from
man.
the items that you get
They're
from that
really
cache
pumping
normally.
it.
And then, in
Whispers
addition to
give
that,
you
the
more
upgrade
gold,
caches, the legendary
targeted
caches that
farming,
occasionally appear in
increased
Whispers,
item power,
Those are going to give you 20 eye
XP
power above what
buffs,
your level is at that moment.
more
These end up being
waypoints.
compelling ways
They're
for
really
players to want to go
pumping
and
the
try to collect,
the season
rewards from
theme
engaging
is an
with systems.
overworld.
Again,
They're
while
really
earning
pumping
tons
the
of gold, and
overworld.
also, while they are getting materials they need to go and summon the Echo of Varshan in World Tiers 3 and 4. And then next, of course, is Helltide caches.
Here's
also
another
benefit
pump
from
to
this
the
same change,
overworld.
in that all
Overworld
Helltide
just
caches, starting
getting
right in World Tier
pumped
3,
over and
have a
over and
20
over
eye
and
power
over and
offset
over and over.
attached to them for the rewards that come out of that. Now, a question that might get asked is, does that mean that eye power value is going to go above the cap of what Sacred or Ancestral would normally provide? And the answer is no. So this does not mean that the very best items in the game are going to be delivered to you from Whisper caches and Helltide caches. Only that these changes allow these cache systems to provide meaningful rewards much longer into progression.
And again,
it was just tied to level.
And again, the eye power cap is you mentioned
920 for Ancestral.
920.
Yeah.
There you go. Because I know there's a lot of people asking 820, 920. So
yeah, we think that these are going to be some
820, it's
good
already
changes for players to
820.
feel they're getting some of those upgrades as they play through those content tiers in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. They have a smoother journey as they continue to level up their character. This mixed with like the experience point changes and a lot of the Nightmare Night stuff that we talked about so far, represents a big, basically us trying to respond to like our experiences playing again and then the feedback from players.
I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. one thing that we talked about Uber Duriel, and how
Duriel King
look at this production
exactly, exactly.
They pulled up this graphic in 2 seconds.
But with all these new bosses, because they all have their own loot tables and everything associated with them, at least with Duriel, because that in itself is a level 100 boss. So what type of
Every single boss, again, the stuff to get to fight the boss.
Yeah, you'll find iPower 920
comes from,
stuff off Duriel.
again, the
So
overworld.
basically, there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only, some of them are very new and coming in with Season 2, that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right? And then there are the uber unique items that drop as well. Now, for the unique items drop him, there is a tighter range versus relative to other bosses and other things. In general, unique items that drop from these bosses they're not going to roll the full 75 eye power range. They're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. So I think the eye power range for Duriel, the eye power range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number, but. That is increased, but the uber unique items that drop from that have a chance to drop, low chance to drop, but still will certainly drop from Duriel. Those are always rolled at cap, so they're always rolled at the highest eye power
at 920.
possible.
Okay, so
and
Duriel,
all of the affixes
Duriel
on
is
the
where you want to be.
also
Duriel
always roll the
farming,
highest values possible.
getting the
So when
keys
you
or
get an
whatever to
uber
farm
unique item,
Duriel
there's not a
is how
better
you get your
version of that
godly
specific
920
uber unique item you can
shakos.
get. That's always the very best one.
Yeah, so if you find a Shako, you've got the very best version right there. So
Yeah, you have it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Nice. Cool. Well, I know we just went through a slew of changes and updates coming to the game. And again, to reiterate, we still actually have more to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't talk about classes.
We didn't talk about
unique items.
We didn't talk about unique item changes.
We didn't talk about the damage buckets.
And I will note, unique item changes, like I said before, pretty much almost all unique items, or nearly all unique items, are getting some sort of update, which we will talk about on October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson to reappear, and he will be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming. And
He has been summoned.
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching, though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking about the resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on rings and all those other.
Well, and there are changes to the. We're gonna get into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So, folks at home might be saying oh, that there's a resistance boss, but with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it, how those changes work.
Exactly. And I will also note that on the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about the first update that will be coming even after Season 2 launches. And that's something that we can briefly talk about here, which is after Season 2 launches, we'll of course have additional updates that will be coming within the season.
Season
and
3.
Each of these updates are going to be adding new things,
We need Immortal or Rod.
ways of being able to enjoy the content, and new features that players have been asking for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-1 will be in that October 10th stream as well. So people will get an early look of what the first update post Season 2 launch will be. And of course, we have a lot more to even talk about at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be at BlizzCon, make sure to check it out. Of course, we'll be streaming, and there'll be more information about, the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to partake in. That will have items within Diablo 4, and of course items from other games that are going to be featured at BlizzCon, like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and all the others. So.
But most importantly, at BlizzCon, you can bug Adam in person.
Yes, you can bug all of us in person at BlizzCon. So make sure to, if you are going to be coming to Anaheim, to check it out. And if you're interested in coming, of course, you can grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November. So should be good. First weekend in November, Friday and Saturday.
They don't want to meet any of you.
One other thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes for the free tier of the Battle Pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience items that we were talking about, where the tiers of the Smoldering Ashes were pretty deep in, and you know, you would already be like a higher level and everything like that. And I know one of the big changes that we're doing is the character level requirements for those specific tiers with Smoldering Ashes have been reduced. So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them.
Yeah.
And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual battle pass as they're playing through, which is
Yeah, so
good
if you
to
happen
do.
to like miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players,
Yes.
certainly happened to me. It's like so now when you go back to the when you go and you actually open up the battle pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. So you can go right and spend those in your season blessings
On
and
new
benefit
season
from them right
blessings.
away.
On new season blessings, yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new battle pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the battle pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked and available for players as well. So of course, you can now change from blue town portal to different color town portal if you'd like, and there will be other town portal skins available in the battle pass as well. So
Yeah, I like this angelic sort of.
Does
feel
that
for
count as
yeah,
the store or no?
yeah, you can look like you're friends with Imperius or like best friends with Imperius.
Does that count as a
with
store?
with your new town
And again,
portal.
Yes.
the free track.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's paid.
Imperius,
All
Imperius
right.
and Arius. Sorry.
Well, any of the angels.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
just
We need
it would be more
leaderboards,
orange, I would say, if it was Imperius
expectations.
to match him. So
Yeah.
I've been playing some Heroes of the Storm.
Did they ever talk about
you can love
nerfs
your-
to anything?
I've got Imperius on my mind right now.
never mentioned
Well, we do
nerfs,
actually
did they?
have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo 4 players into the world because we're here to announce that Diablo 4 is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2. So on October 17th, Diablo 4 will be available on Steam. Nice part about being on Steam, of course, is it carries over the same elements as you know, all the other or all the other platforms. So cross-play, cross-progression will work immediately day one for anyone who does purchase on Steam. And so if you have friends on Battle.net and they prefer to play on Steam, they can, of course, play together from both sides, which is awesome to see. So Wishlist will be available immediately after the stream for Diablo 4 coming on Steam. It's really nice if you have a Steam Deck, it's another option of being able to play Diablo 4 because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see. So,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, lots of
Sanctuary on the go.
Sanctuary
let's
on
see
the
what
go. Yeah.
the Steam reviews.
Which is good. And by the way, cross progression and everything. Of course, that works with the console players as well. So if you're playing on Steam,
Console.
you'll of course be able to play with Xbox and PlayStation users. on that end.
We just need loot filter.
But I'm really impressed, by the way, that we got through a lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
We
Somebody
actually
asked
are going to
about
go
blue
through
filters.
some Q&A from everyone in Twitch chat. So if you actually have a question and you're in Twitch chat, feel free to ask the question. We'll try to grab as many questions as possible. And I'll use my trusty iPad and ask the questions and, of course, call out people's names and attempt to pronounce them correctly. But I know we will start off with one first question here as we grab more within the group. But what plans do you have for itemization?
Loot filters.
So we've obviously got a ton of feedback about the feeling of earning rewards in Diablo 4 and the feeling of like the power of those items and how interesting they are and how easy they are to compare and what the path towards getting like perfect items feels like and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're trying to like fully like perfect their build. We have a lot of ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4. The sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first small steps of the sorts of things we want to do. But we're reading through all of this feedback. We have all like really interesting ideas and designs that we're working on the side. And we're excited to be able to bring those things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the themes here are more endgame stuff and improvements to itemization.
Yeah.
More endgame
All right.
stuff.
Quick question here from Cursed47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon sometimes isn't very fun and wasn't the best way to fix the time issue. Is there more plans for open world elements using mounts sometimes doesn't feel like it matters after a certain point.
Who asked that question?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't like to condone
What do you think
violence.
that's
They're asking if there's going to be like some more plans for some like open world content or anything that will be on the open world. I think a lot
Joe
of this
Shelley,
ties
your
back to some of
confusion
the
is
stuff that you're
warranted.
actually seeing in
You
seasons.
continue to be
Because seasons
confused and
actually
do
ends
not
up
answer that
adding,
question.
A lot more content to the open world, even with season 2, with us being able to
Who
add,
asked that
additional
question?
objectives and everything for players to actually grab.
Yeah,
What was his name?
There are. We want to have a mix of gameplay that occurs in dungeons, which is core Diablo
You did a good
gameplay,
job buffing
and
the
gameplay that's
overworld in the
occurring
patch.
open world. And so with
Who the
season 2,
fuck asked
we
that
see
question?
things like the
Blood Harvest.
the new Blood Harvest, exactly, and some of the changes like the monsters being on level with you in open world.
Cursed 47.
And the changes that Joe talked about with item power based on monster power. Right?
Yeah, in addition to that, just making sure that the various activities we have in Diablo 4 feel more rewarding to engage in on their own. One component of that being that the summoning materials that you need to go and farm these bosses that you want for these special unique items, and in some ways to go and challenge Duriel as well for those uber unique opportunities. Like these represent, I think, good steps forward to kind of make these content feel more compelling in general. But as we continue to march forward and we're looking at, I mean, we showed the content chart earlier with like all of the bosses and the way that we're sort of thinking about various parts of the endgame experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct activities that
Porting
appeal to
into
different kinds of players.
letting us
Also,
port
just
into
continue to
Nightmare
bring out,
Dungeons
like,
was
various
not the
kind of
solution.
Parts of Sanctuary to make things more
Cursed
fun and engaging for
47,
players.
you are at the top of my
this
shit
really
list.
is again like just like the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject into Diablo 4 over time, right? And adding more content to the overworld is a part of that. Particularly like content that has like high monster density and is like fun to go and engage with and slaughter monsters in one way or the other.
Adding it and the relevance of the content in the world, right? Because
Yes.
if there's content in the world but it's not relevant, then it just you're just riding past it, right?
That's absolutely right. Yep.
We have a question from these names. Legless puppy, which probably rolls around on wheels, and it's probably a cool puppy.
That sounds
for sure.
really sad, actually. in a way.
Well, I mean, if they're on wheels, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess if it has wheels.
yeah,
Sure.
rolling on some good rims or something.
Okay, I guess Adam likes taking legs off puppies, but
But
weird take.
Is there any chance of the level cap being removed off of Paragon glyphs?
Yeah.
Joe, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, like, we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before Season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed with the idea of kind of cap power progression sort of in mind. We want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters. As they continue engaging
Why did you let us port into Nightmare Dungeons?
Players, particularly as
And
they
was
reach
the
level 100,
second
they're
question,
looking for more ways
give
to
us
get stronger
infinite
and get more
power?
powerful. We want to find more ways for them to do that feel in ways that
What
feel
the
compelling
fuck
and are
is
fun,
going on
and
here?
don't feel like this extra task work they have to do in order to like take that next step, right?
Is
I
this
think,
real?
I think if I think about the reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to, we talk about cap power progression, which has good reasons, like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there be more stuff to do, right? And so
I'm not blaming Adam. He's just reading questions that are flying by on his iPad. But
through all of the endgame boss summoning.
are there
Yeah, the
actual
endgame boss
people
mechanics and
asking
then
these
advanced power
questions?
will level up as
That's
we go through
right,
the season,
yeah.
right? But yeah, it's not even just having more things to do. It's making sure that there are more things to do that impact the performance of my character, and I feel like there's more ways I can get stronger.
At endgame.
Bro, let me ask the question.
That's a much better way to say
First
it.
question.
Yeah, but I think that
need
it's
to
all fair,
fix
right?
my
I think
bingo.
there's,
Talk
there's
about
room here
loot
for us to
filters.
add more of that, add more to that experience, particularly. As
Then we can
players
talk
play.
about
Yeah, I look forward to
leaderboards.
more of those, updates as we continue to kind of march along.
Yeah.
Navastra says, could we have a Paragon board reset button, or be able to buy reset scrolls for a set amount of gold or something? Won't talk about anything today, but
We'll look into it.
wink.
Yeah, what an interesting idea.
Wink.
What an interesting
There you
idea.
go.
Why wasn't this
Cool.
implemented
Next
first?
question that we have is from. trying to pronounce these names here. DEYV. Question about Uber Uniques. Is there a chance for you guys to improve Uber Unique stats?
That's a fair question
So
because some
Uber
of them aren't
Uniques
even
are
that
gonna be one of
good.
those things that are going to get discussed, I think, a little bit more next week. When
Okay,
Adam
so
is
you
on talking about
redid the Uber
the
Uniques
content
too.
changes
They
for
redid the
classes
Uniques and the Uber
various,
Uniques.
item bucket changes and things, or the affix
Okay.
and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's
Some
a
of
good
the
question
Uber
for
Uniques
that
needed to
group
be
answer
buffed.
as part of that conversation. But I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some improvements, particularly with some Uber Uniques. Yeah.
They're creating
JJ
problems so I can fix
Lafreak
them later.
Says, is the stash search usable for legendary powers and affixes?
Yes.
Yes, you can search through those. So it'd just be, searching through the box
Bro,
or anything like that, because we do
bro,
have that
let
field that
me
lets
ask
you
the
actually,
questions, man.
look that up specifically from that end. Nelix87 says, are there any plans to give clans some love? Currently, clan management is very limited. Clan leaders and their officers has very minimal tools to track anything related to the clan. Are there maybe plans for clan
This is a fair
stashes
question.
Or more
Plans
opportunities for
mean a
clans
lot
actually
to some
be able
people.
share.
Yeah, we'd love to add more social options and in particular clan management tools, more cool things for clans to do together, and that's something that
the question was
we'll have
better
more
than the
share on.
first two.
Peter Odin says, will we be receiving more coins in the Battle Pass instead of 666? And I know that there is a change this season for the Battle Pass because there was a lot of feedback where players would receive platinum and then they wouldn't be able to actually end up using that platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able
this is
to
our
use platinum
chance to ask
from the Battle Pass
really
because
good
there's
questions
options
to the
now,
devs about the
that
future
will
of
meet
Diablo
that
4, and
specific
we're
amount,
asking about
so
the number
players
of
will have some
fucking
options
coins
available
in
to
the
them.
Battle Pass. I'm gonna fucking cry.
Sepulus? Ah, look, I pronounced it right. How many? Proud of myself. How many uniques will you add every season? Any news on set items?
This is a better
so no
question.
news on set items just yet. So in terms of the number of uniques we're adding every season, we've been sticking to around 6 so far. There are more than 6 as part of season 2. So we'll talk more about that. I believe in the blog we talk about some of these numbers. But yeah, I think there's more than, I think there's like 12 uniques in season 2 right now.
Yeah.
12 new ones.
We'll be continuing to evaluate these counts
That's
as we
pretty
go,
sick.
but now that there's ways for players to farm these things, we're excited about trying to find more opportunities to inject some of them. But we also want to continue to add new legendary aspects as well, and more ways to kind of create that build and kind of earn it more, before you hit World Tier 3, right?
Yeah, and in general, season 2 is representative. We think that there should be more in a season, and season 2 is representative of that direction.
Yeah. Question from Fletchy. Good name.
They dodged the set item question.
How is Duriel going to compare to Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So Echo of Lilith is our pinnacle challenge boss. She is very, very difficult. And we've made some adjustments to her to make her a little bit easier for players of different builds to take down, which I think we've seen some of those changes even during the course of Season 1. But in Season 2, Duriel is designed not to be at that same level of difficulty. He is a little bit easier because you can use all the materials to go and fight Duriel and you could fail. Right, so we want to make sure that if you have gotten your build together and you know the fight really well and you've got the proper amount of poison resist,
because it's
which I
a
recommend,
cost, it's an
that's gonna
entry
make it a little
fee.
bit easier to engage with.
I think that's
overall,
fair.
Versus the hard mechanical.
He said
challenge
no
that
update on them.
poses
Okay.
Kind of separately. So Duriel is going to be less difficult overall to overcome than Uber Lilith in this way.
I'm going to try to combine 2 questions into one here because I think they're pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team Loose Leaf asks, will the 5 new bosses you target farm be a permanent addition after season 2? Don't answer that yet. Oh, you already did. But we can. Thanks, Joe. But
You have
then,
to say it before.
I
you ask
did.
the
I was
question.
saying I was going to combine
Talk through it.
and then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to, here it is. Fat Teppy says, do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal? Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned, yes, the boss ladder items that we were just talking about will be going beyond Season 2.
Dude, why
And
does
then,
Twitch keep playing
they also
ads?
will be part of the Eternal Realm, day 1
Yes.
with
They
Season 2.
know I have
So
way more
even
viewers than
Eternal Realm
normal, so they're
characters
just
will be able
farming
to,
you guys, or what?
Partake in farming those specific bosses.
Bosses and items, yeah.
And items themselves. So.
And yeah, the other side
They
of that is
just
so, yeah,
dynamically
we're gonna be
run
adding
more or something?
content to the Eternal Realm beyond just these bosses. Yeah,
Exactly.
You know, when we talk about when we showed the chart of the content types before, and, oh wow, it's already ready, already prompted. When we showed these things out before, once again, as a reminder, we do see that there's a lot of space in here for players in Eternal Realm and in Seasons to go and engage with different kinds
I
of
really
content,
don't
different points
think
in
that
progression.
with
So
how
we
much the
are excited about trying to
XP has
provide more of those
increased,
opportunities as we
I don't think
continue on
these two
development for
things
Diablo
are
4.
even a thing. Yeah, you
Part of
could
making the
fight
game
them,
better is making sure
but
that
they
it's more
drop
fun at those stages,
they drop
particularly
sacred
World Tour
loot.
and
Why would
especially
you
World
fight
Tour.
them?
Yeah.
These
Question
two
from
things don't
Ice
make any sense.
Gammon, have you guys given thought to being able to craft specific nightmare dungeon keys rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about how we want players to engage in Nightmare Dungeons and what makes it most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
All right. Question from Digital Wizard 91 regarding endgame boss mechanics. Is there any visual improvements to the readability of their attacks compared to other bosses or other encounters that we've had in the past?
Yes, there have been.
Yeah, I think I know we showed really brief.
We showed some of the stuff on traps,
Yeah.
right? But there are other visual improvements.
Yeah, and we even showed the boss quick little intros as
Yeah,
they're kind of
the
coming
intros,
in.
right. Yeah.
But you can, at least with Gregor, you can kind of see some of his mechanics that are in play there regarding the tiles, and you can clearly see where they're going to be hitting when encountering this this specific boss. So yeah, there are some changes for sure on that. BR Bulbul. Are you going to be able to save builds to a wardrobe like Diablo 3 potentially in the future?
Oh, builds, yeah, like you can with transmogs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we'd like to add in the future.
Wow, that's a whole philosophy change.
Yeah.
It
They
continues
said
to be
no.
Yeah, continue.
They're gonna let you. They're gonna give you
not
the
changed.
armory.
Is
They
there
said
any plans
no.
for this from Intrepid
now they
Gamer?
changed their
Are there
mind.
any plans for adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use other third-party tools, like going over Discord or something like that to potentially
sure.
find opportunities to find other users that might have
A
There's
non-real
some
money
functionality
auction
baked
house.
into trade chat right now, but I think we're really, as part of the season, with the material trains can be available for players to use to some of the bosses. I think we're starting to see players begin to stress the systems that we have, and based on their feedback, it's going to advise a lot of how we want to think about trading in the future for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about UI UX enhancements we want to make and just general improvements to the the kinds of things you can trade, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Arcadium OW says, previously the idea of permanently upgrading our Codex of Power with extracted aspects was discussed. Are you guys still
Yes.
interested or looking into this?
Yes.
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways like that, and we'll have more to share on that in the future.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people chiming in specifically in chat about
means-
things
that
like
means they're gonna do
leaderboards, which we've already talked about. That is actually a
Coming in season 3, yeah.
Season 3 feature.
Yep.
Got it.
Leaderboards are most definitely coming.
Oh,
and
got
those will
another
be,
one.
Available in Season 3. Pugina TV says, do I need to buy the game again in Steam, or is there any source use
Need
of it in
Immortal,
Steam if I bought it before?
Boot filter or
you
expectations.
don't need to buy the game again on Steam. It's your choice. If you prefer to play on Steam, you can. Or sorry, let me clarify. You do need to buy the game again on Steam if you want to play it on Steam. But if you already have the game, of course, you have the option of playing it on the other platforms, specifically from that front. There's some people that prefer to purchase games on Steam and have it available there. So they have that option now, starting with Season 2 on October 17th, when the game becomes available on Steam. So. Trying to think here. I've now lost track of where I was because I was going down a list.
Adam, I
Legless
need my
Puppy again
bingo.
has another question. Diablo, or at Diablo, is there any changes planned for glyph experience cap, removing or increasing the level cap on glyphs? Will give us more reasons to run Nightmare Dungeons on repeat.
Again?
I
We
kind of
just had this
question.
question.
So we are looking at ways to make sure the players feel like they've got good progression opportunities once they reach like level 100. They've capped out some of these sorts of systems. The exact contents of that, or like exactly what we're going to do, we're not ready to talk about just today.
Yeah.
But we are definitely aware of the interest in that particular solution, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the changes in Season 2 that relate to leveling up to 100. And a natural consequence of this is that more players are going to reach 100.
Yep.
And that means they need content to do. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about right now.
VZAT says, can Duriel drop 920 item power rare items or just Uber uniques?
No, the items that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always be 920 eye power. They're going to follow the same range as if it's a level 100 monster. So there's still a 75 eye power swing on the rare item drops from Uber Duriel, or the Duriel, the King of Maggots, right? So that's really more the focus there. The unique items obviously will have a much tighter range than the 75 eye power swing of rare items, but the Uber uniques will always be at 920. But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get a tighter range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting Nightmare Dungeons of a higher eye power range, or a higher level range, because then you're going to start having the eye power min of the rare range start to go higher and higher with every new monster level that you fight.
A lot of questions about loot filters. Don't know if there's any plans or discussions regarding loot filters.
Bingo!
I'll just acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of ARPG that many players enjoy, and we have heard that feedback.
We made such a
and
good
something
board.
that, we're exploring right now.
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format. We can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like. It would mean invalidating keys after a period of time, or having a smaller selection of dungeons overall that rotates more regularly. But right now, we've really
It's
focused
just
on
if
making
it's
sure that we've
discussed,
got, a
Harry.
set of
Not if we
25
get
really
it.
exciting Nightmare dungeons to engage with.
It's just if they mention it, then it counts.
All right, and
Not
we'll
whether we
do
get it or
one more
not.
question here, which is, actually, you know what? I know it's a question that a lot of people are talking about, which is stash tabs. And because obviously we have changes here for Season 2 that address a lot of inventory related concerns. Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future, or anything to discuss today?
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we recognize that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements to being able to store items. It's an RPG, players want to store a lot of items, and we're going to continue to make improvements in this area. You've seen some of them here today in Season 2, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Awesome. So took a bunch of questions here, and we went through all the Season 2,
not Adam's
Season
fault
Blood
that half the
changes,
questions
or
were from
new Season Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for
people
players
that
on
shouldn't be
October
asking
17th.
questions.
Again, Season 1, which is Season of the Malignant, actually ends on October 17th. And Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates and times are actually going to be listed on a blog that will be live immediately after this live stream. I will note that the plan is for Season 2 to actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific on the 17th. So if you guys want to pre-plan schedules or anything like that, you have that ability of being able to do so now. So we will actually be back here again for a campfire chat on October 10th with Mr. Adam Jackson, who will be going over all the class changes, class balance changes, class updates, as again, the resistance updates that are coming in within the game, along with the damage bucket updates for vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates that are coming, plus unique item updates that we are going to be covering off. Of course, we'll have a Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read through what is currently 41 pages of patch notes for people to kind of sort through and read through all the changes that will be coming within the game.
41 pages
but yeah,
of patch
thank you
notes.
guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th. And again, Diablo 4 will now be available on Steam. You can wishlist that now. And it will be available with Season 2 when it arrives. So we have a lot to talk about on the 10th. And to talk about 121 on the 10th as well.
right.
Sorry, forgot about that. Our future plans with Season 2. And of course, more to talk at BlizzCon. So thank you guys again from the whole Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard. Appreciate you guys joining in. And we'll see you next week for the October 10th stream. Have a good
Thank you
one.
for playing.
Thanks.